Hey everybody, welcome to the channel. Today we're going to be playing some Blood and Plunder in their Solitaire solo rules. These are something that you can download off the Firelock Games website. Just go to the firelockgames.com website and you can pick these up. I thought it was going to be really extensive and hard to pick up, but it's actually 3 pages. It's only like 3 pages long, which if you look at it, actually the first page is mostly a logo, so it's technically like 2 pages and change. So but they're fairly straightforward. They use the activation deck, but it seems like everything's pretty much mapped out in these rules, which we're going to try today. Being that the world is what it is right now, you can't get your games in with your buddies like you wish you could. But I went ahead and painted up a Brethren of the Coast pirate force and a Dutch militia force, so North American militia. So it's going to be pretty cool to get a game on the table here. I've only really played 1 game of Blood and Plunder before, so I might get a lot of stuff wrong. But hopefully today you guys will get a good look at what the Solitaire rules can do for you. If you want to try that out, pick these up and play some games on your own home table and still get to enjoy your Firelock Games Blood and Plunder models. Now I'm going to be using these cool templates that my buddy Tim from War Chest Creations, he went ahead and cut these. And they're kind of different than the ones you get from Firelock, but they're really cool. I like how he's got the nice acrylic tokens here for the stink pots and staying in cohesion. And then he's got his double-sided movement gauge for play, and then a nice wind gauge with a magnet in it. So these are going to be up on War Chest Creations website. And I don't know the price yet, but Tim's working on that. He's just starting to print these, and they're pretty cool. So hopefully more people will get in on those. Yeah, they're really great, and they work real great. So anyway, so to keep things simple, I went ahead and just did an encounter mission, which has the deployment of 15 inches on each corner on a 3x4. And so I went ahead and did that with each of the forces. The attackers are going to be the Brethren of the Coasts, and the defenders are going to be the Dutch. And it's a good thing that the Dutch don't really care anyway about this little village here, because most of it is ruins as it is. We've got what looks like a little campfire here and a tower. Maybe the Brethren of the Coast saw that there was a medium cannon up here and wanted to steal this field gun and take it down out of the tower. But the Dutch might want to defend that. So we'll see here. We've got some rock formations, some trees, some homes. We've got a house over here. And then, the tree line over here, which is where the Brethren of the Coast are making their attack. So they're coming in from these trees over here. And they're going to try and steal this cannon, I guess. But they've been diverted to this North American Dutch militia that's headed their way. So they're kind of coming into the battle over here on the opposite end, 15 inches in. And most of my militia is inside this ruined building, just because I figure that unit is very fragile. I want to start them there in that cover. Over here we've got the Brethren of the Coast. We've got the commander right out there in the front with his forlorn hope. We've got the freebooters not far behind. We've got the English Sea Dogs there right behind the forlorn hope. And then in the back we've got the filibustier. And I went ahead and attached my Dutch commander to the Soldaten, just because I figured that would be a good idea. They are a solid unit, and I can add his command points to their reloading and get them shooting more. I also have my militia, as I said, here in this building. And then over here on my left flank, we've got the Zeeladen and the Capers. Just kind of going to swing around. Hopefully they can get some cover here behind this overturned boat and some of these crates and the tower as they make their way over to try and meet the Brethren of the Coast in the center of the table. Okay, so here's the full battlefield. I'm going to have this camera view as well so that everybody can kind of see a full picture of the battlefield as we go. I'm going to go ahead and draw my 3 first cards for the turn. For my, actually 4 because I get 4 units. Oh man, and right off the bat I've got an event. That's a bummer. But maybe it could be cool. We'll see what happens there. And then we'll come back and draw a card for the English. Okay, we're going to roll for our event. We rolled a 5. And then the 5 is a weather change and wind change. Okay, and so here's our weather result. The wind change isn't going to matter that much, but the weather result is a 5, which a 5 is no change, so we're good to go. Go ahead and draw another card. Okay, here we go with our next card, and alright, so not too bad. We've got 4 cards here. Looks like we've got a 7 and 8 of spades, and then a 6 of clubs, and a 4 of diamonds. So, not too bad as far as hands go. Let's see what happens here. The first card I'm going to put down, I think for the turn, here we go. Get rid of that event. And then we're going to draw the topmost card for the English. They've got a 5 of diamonds, and then I've got a 6 of spades. We're going to go ahead and consult the rules here for a 5 of diamonds because he's going to get to go first. So we're going to have him activate the closest unit, obviously. So, yeah, because it always goes units engaged, units with enemies less than 12 inches away, and all of their units. And it's always the closest. So it would probably be these sea dogs here. So let's see, are we within 20? We are within 20, however we don't have guns that'll shoot that far. So, I believe that we just go to the next thing, which will be charge, reload, tactical move. Alright, so it'll be a tactical move because that's the next thing we can do. We're going to actually go ahead and move our second move here to get these guys, because I forgot at first that they had a second action. So they're just going to move up further, and actually being that they're kind of right out in the middle of everything, I believe in this situation I'm just going to make an executive decision for these guys that they would want to push, because this unit being out in the open to these Soldaten doesn't seem like a good idea. And I believe if I were the commander, I would be a-okay with giving these guys a push just to get them into cover and behind something so that they don't get absolutely shot up. So they're going to make a third action and get back behind this cover, giving them their saves and giving them a way to not get absolutely ripped apart by this fire. Okay, so there's the first action, and I'm already breaking the solitaire rules, but that's alright. This way it gives them some cover, and it's probably the wise decision. And we can try and remove that fatigue later with the command point. Alright, next for the Dutch, we've actually got 3 actions with a trained unit, or 2 actions with an inexperienced unit. So I'm going to actually go with my trained Zealaden and try and counter with 3 actions. So we're going to actually come up 4, move these guys up. We're going to move up 4 again. Oh, and we're missing our last Zealaden. There we go. So the Zealaden have moved up 2 of their 3 actions. For my third action, I'm actually going to try and get them to go through this little passage here around the boat, but I believe that they'd probably lose a point of movement doing that. So we're just going to go 3 and try and set them up on the other side of this. So that way they're, you know, out of line of sight of pretty much everybody. And then we'll even just kind of do that so that way they're not completely breaking the rules there. So hopefully that is a sound way to do that. Subtract 1 inch of movement, and that way they can squeeze through that little passage there. Get out of line of sight of the enemy. As you can see over here, On the other side of this tower, we've got the Sea Dogs already, and they are really close to the Zealadin. And each of those units has a unit with a blunderbuss, so that's going to be pretty crazy. Alright, so for my card, this time I think I'm not worried about going first. So I went with a 4 of diamonds. And the Brethren of the Coast actually got a 10 of spades, so they're going to be going first again. So the next closest unit is going to be the Forlorn Hope here, and they've got their commander right there. So we're going to try and get over to these Sea Dogs and give them a command to remove that fatigue with the rally. We might actually be able to get over here and shoot some Zealadin as well, so let's see what happens. So they're going to go ahead and make an aggressive move because that's what it says to do on the card. So they're all going to move up 4 inches, getting closer to the Zealadin and getting ready to make their next move. So they only have 1 action right now, which is kind of a bummer. But the good news is they are within 4 inches of these Sea Dogs, so they're going to be able to give them a rally test. So the Sea Dogs actually have a resolve of 5, so as long as I can roll a 5 or more, which I rolled a 3, of course, they don't get rid of their fatigue, which is a bummer. But that's okay. We'll try the next unit. Next I have the option to go with 2 actions with the diamond here. So I believe that what I'm going to do is just activate these capers. This is all kind of preparation for the next turn, getting these units ready. So we've got 1 move and 2 moves. And this will give us some good shooting for the next turn. And after those 2 actions, we've got this tower over here acting as a line of sight blocker between the enemies. Alright, for the next unit activation, there's not really much difference between these cards, so I'm just going to go ahead and play the 7. Why not? And then the English player, or the Brethren of the Coast, has a 2. So I'll be going first this time. So with drawing that spade, I've got a really great shot on the Sea Dogs with my Soldaten and my commander here. As you can see, right out where I can see them in good range. They do have cover behind those barrels though, so at least they've got that going for them. So we're going to go ahead and see if our matchlock muskets that we have on these Soldaten will do the trick. So we've got 8 of them, so that's going to be 2, 4, 6, 8 dice. And then I don't actually get to shoot my pistol. Actually, I might. Let me check on that. I think it's just a -2 modifier. Okay, so the Soldaten have a shoot skill of 6, and my commander actually gets to shoot as well, and he takes on their shoot skill of 6 as well, but he only has a brace of pistols. So he's going to be shooting at a +2. Being that they are 10 inches away, just over 10 inches away, it's going to be a +2 modifier to their 6 shoot skill, so they're going to be shooting on 8s, and then I'm going to need a 10 with that +2 modifier to my commander. So here we go. We've got all 3 fortune points, feeling pretty good. Let's hit on 8s. Okay, so my commander rolled a 3, so that's not going to work, and I didn't make a single hit there. I'm feeling pretty bad about that, because that seems like something that should hit at least once, so I'm going to actually spend one of my fortune tokens here. I'm down to 2. So we're going to re-roll everything, and hopefully we get some 8s this time. Okay, much better. We've got an 8 here, we've got a 10 here, and another 8. So that's 3 whole hits. So that means that these Sea Dogs over here, which I need to look at their save against shooting is a 7, and they're behind that light cover, so they will get that 7. So they've got to make 3 saves on 7s. And they only made 1, so they'll actually drop 2 because they rolled an 8, 5, and a 3. So they dropped 2 of their numbers. So there we go. And then they need to make 2 fatigue tests plus 1 for getting hit. So that's 3. and their resolve is a 5. So they actually passed all 3 because they got a 7-7-5. That worked out pretty good for them, even though they took some damage there. One other thing I failed to do with my one action is I did activate the Soldaten on a spade, which, you know, that they have expertly drilled, which if you activate them on a spade, they get that expertly drilled if they make a dedicated action. And actually, I wouldn't have gotten it anyway because they all have to be in base to base, and they are not in base to base. So I need to get them base to base with one another. Then they get that formation, which gives them the expertly drilled. And that expertly drilled allows them on a spade or a heart with a successful dedicated shoot action. They'll get an additional D10 when making a fatigue test, the enemy will. So that's pretty cool. I'm going to have to remember that for the future, but that's okay. They still were very effective, downing 2 of the Sea Dogs. Okay, so the next unit that's closest is going to be these freebooters. So we're going to either charge, reload, tactical move. So we're going to just make our tactical moves, which when we've got 3 actions, we might be able to get to a spot where we can actually shoot here. So we're going to go 1, we're going to go 2 over here, and then we're going to have a lot of them right out in the open to be able to shoot. So I believe that our third action could be a good solid shoot action against these Zealadin over here, which was a big mistake on my part, but that's alright. So if you can see here, we've got the freebooters who just use 2 of their actions to move up, and then we've got the Zealadin over here kind of peeking around that corner. I didn't know that that was going to be the case where they got all of that movement going, but it definitely worked out in their favor. Alright, so now we're going to go ahead and take the shoot action against these Zealadin over here. So the freebooters have a shoot skill of 6. They also have ball and shot, which let's see if we're within 12. It does appear that we're within actually just over 8 inches. So this is going to be really bad for these Zealadin. Oh, just over 8. So that's going to be a +2. So here we go. They usually need 6. They need 8s. Okay. So it looks like I got 2 hits here on the Zealadin. And the rest of them missed, which is good for me. No 10s in there, so the ball and shot doesn't come into play. But still, that's 2 hits on my Zealadin, which are now going to have to take tests. One of the guys is in cover, so I'm going to take one on him first. My Zealadin have a shoot save of 7, which isn't great, but we're going to try here. So he makes it on a 9, and then the other guy only gets a save of a 9, because when you're in the open, you only get a 9 for a save. And he got an 8, so we're going to go ahead and take this guy right here, and he's going to be a casualty. So now that I've taken a casualty and I've been hit by fire, I need to make 2 tests on my resolve. The Zealadin have a resolve of 5, so I need 5s or better. So I do make a 6 and a 2. So a 2 isn't enough, and I will gain a fatigue. And for the final card of turn 1, I only have 1 left, so it's going to be the 8 of spades for me and the 2 of clubs for the Brethren of the Coast. So some of my militia can see the Sea Dogs out here, but I don't really feel like it's going to be a great shot at the moment. So I'm actually going to get out of this building and start heading over towards the enemy, which might be a terrible idea. They are an inexperienced unit. They only get 1 action, but you know, maybe we can do something with that. And another thing I realized is I completely forgot to use my command points on my commander earlier. He was just going to give them a free reload and then possibly move somebody, but since I forgot, we're just going to say he just let them reload 1 of their 2 markers and call that a day. I also forgot to put a reload marker on this unit, so I will do that now. Okay, putting my 1 reload marker on these guys. I'm actually going to have to put a 2 reload marker on these guys over here as well, because the freebooters shot. there they are on the other side of the building. That's going to be their activation, and now we're on to the filibustier for the Brethren of the Coast. So luckily the filibustier over here, which I'm going to remove my treetops so we can see things a little better, have 3 actions this turn since they're trained. So that's going to give them a little bit more movement. So I'm going to actually move them up 4, because I'm pretty sure that their action is going to be to move, because they didn't really have any super great targets. Actually, if I look at it, it is a 2 of clubs. We're tied. That's going to be a B, which is hold, which is going to be shoot, and less than 20 inches. So now, where they're at, they are within 20 inches, and they can see these militia over here. So maybe they would make a shoot action. Yeah, that's what it says, so we gotta use the chart. There's a lot of times already where I'm wanting to deviate from these solitaire rules just to help along the opponent. But I'm going to go ahead and go with the solitaire rules and use what they're doing. Because honestly, they might be doing something better than what I'm trying to do. So these guys do have, the filibustier do have less than 20. They're actually at just over 15 inches here. So they can actually fire on my militia unit over there, which is going to be the closest unit to them. And they're going to be mostly in cover behind barrels as they're shooting across. So we've got the militia across the way, and we've also got those barrels that are kind of in the way of half the unit. So I think that half of them are going to get cover, but they've got a nice shot within 20 inches right across and out of the woods. So we're going to go ahead and roll that. The filibustier are shoot skill of 6. They're just over 15 inches, which gives them a +3, so they're going to be hitting on 9s. And here we go. Looks like we completely missed with the filibustiers. There's not a single 9, and unfortunately there are no fortune points for the op4 in the solitaire rules, the opposing force. So the filibustier did fire and miss, but they still have 1 of their 3 actions left. So their last action, we're just going to go ahead and have them reload for 1. That'll get them back in the fight next turn if they get a multiple activation card, and let them fire again. Okay, so for turn 1, the Brethren of the Coast have pushed up, and the Dutch have pushed up as well. A couple of we've had some casualties on both sides, but it looks like turn 2 is going to get really bloody really quick. Okay, for turn 2, I'm going to go ahead and draw my cards here. Not too bad. I've got a couple of spades, a club, and a diamond, so a little bit of each here. Okay, so for the first card, I'm going to go ahead and pick my card. I think I want to go first, so I'm going to burn this high club right out of the gate to try and get some close combat going. And my opponent drew a club. So it's going to be a spade against a club for turn 1. Alright, so being that my militia has a really good shot over here on these sea dogs, I think that my next action is going to be actually to use this spade on those militia. The militia usually aren't too great at shooting, but they're inexperienced, and I might as well take this shot while I've got it. My militia are just at 7 inches away from the enemy, which means that they're only going to have a +1 to shoot. So here goes the roll. We need 8 to hit. And it looks like we've got quite a few hits there, actually. We've got 3 1s in the roll, but we do have a 9 and 2 10s. So these sea dogs over here are going to have to take 3 saves. And the sea dogs have a shoot save of 7 when they're behind cover. They're all behind cover, so here we go. Ooh, we got a 5, a 2, and a 7. So that means 2 of the Sea Dogs are going to go down. Now I want to try and keep that blunderbuss alive, but that'll leave him as the only remaining member of this unit. Now, in order to actually stick around, it looks like these guys are going to have to, this one solitary soul is going to have to make all of these fatigue tests. So since he lost 2 of his friends, he can't fail any. His resolve as a Sea Dog is 5, so it's pretty good. Let's see if he can make them. He got a 5, a 9, and a 3, which unfortunately brings him to fatigue 2. Anytime your fatigue is higher than the amount of models in the unit, that unit flees. So this poor Sea Dog here that failed his fatigue test has 2 fatigue now, which is higher than his actual unit count. So that means that this unit is going to flee the table. I'll go ahead and throw down 2 reload markers on the militia, who have now done their duty for the turn. So now our freebooters are the closest unit to an enemy unit over here. My Zealoden are in some big trouble here because they are trained and they're going to get 3 actions with the club that was drawn for the Brethren of the Coast. So here go the freebooters, and they're going to go ahead and load for 2. So that's 2 actions. They have a shoot skill of 6. And it's going to be a +2, so I need 8s, just like last time. Alright, so here we go. 8s. So, they actually got 2 hits out of that. And close on several of the dice, but only 2 of them hit. So we've got an 8 and a 9 there. There was a 6 in there, I thought it was a 9 at first. So, the Zealoden are going to need to roll 2 saves. Their shoot saves are 7, but I'm only going to be able to take 1 save as only one of their guys is actually in cover. So here's for a 7. I rolled a 1. And then the other guy needing a 9. And he rolled a 4. So that means 2 more Zealoden down. Ouch and ouch. Alright. So we've taken 2 more casualties on the Zealoden, bringing us up to 3 casualties. And then we'll go ahead and replace that reload marker. Now we've got to do a fatigue test. Taking 2 casualties, that means I've got to take 3 dice. Now I've got to be careful here or I might lose the whole unit. The Zealoden have a resolve of 5, and they rolled lights out. We've got a 9, a 7, and a 10 there, which means that they take no additional fatigue. This time I believe I'd like to go for more activations rather than going first. Let's see what happens here. Ooh, we've got 3 of diamonds to a 6 of diamonds. So I was just narrowly beat by the Brethren of the Coast here. The 9 of diamonds is going to get to go first. We're going to go ahead and go with the commander's unit. He's going to actually command this unit over here to reload 1. So we're going to actually be commanding this unit of freebooters over here to reload 1, so they only have 1 reload for next turn, which is exactly what it says to do in the Solitaire rules, because rally then reload. So it's going to use that command point to help their friends reload. They drew a 9 carved value and were tied on strike points, so they go to the hold, which would mean they shoot if over 20 inches or 20 inches or less. It looks like they can see a good number of my militia over here, so I believe that they're going to shoot over towards the militia over here. They are going to be getting cover, but it's only a +2 to hit. And the Forlorn Hope have a shoot skill of 6, so they're going to be hitting on 8s. Alright, so here we go. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 of the Forlorn Hope. And then we've actually got 1 commander in there, and he can shoot his brace of pistols on a 10 instead of an 8. So I'm going to use the yellow die for that. So we're going to go ahead and shoot these militia and see what happens. Oh, and the commander actually hit with his pistol, which is pretty cool. So we've got 1 hit from the commander, and then we've actually got 1 hit from the Forlorn Hope, which being that they have ball and shot, if that was a 10 on the shot here, it would have triggered an extra roll to try and get another hit, but I don't think the ball and shot goes to the commander because he'd be stuffing ball and shot into his pistol. I don't know, maybe I'm wrong on that, but you know what, just in case, let's roll one, err on the side of me being wrong. So okay, it wouldn't have hit anyway, but always good to just err on the side of your opponent, that way nothing ever comes up where you were in the wrong. Okay, so that was 2 hits. My militia over there is only a save of 7. We are behind cover with all of our guys behind these barrels pretty much, and being obscured by the tower. So we're going to go ahead and roll some 7s here. And we only rolled 1. We rolled a 6 and a 7, so I do lose 1 guy. So one of the militia is going to fall. We'll go ahead and take one of these sorry boys in the back here. That brings me up to 4 casualties, and then I need to make a fatigue test on these guys who are really not that great as far as resolve. Their fatigue test is going to be on a 6, and I actually get a 6 and a 9. So they don't actually take any fatigue, which isn't terrible. So we go ahead and put 2 reload markers here on the Forlorn Hope, and we're going to use that last action they have to bring that down to 1. Being that my capers are trained, I'm going to use my 2 actions from the diamond card here to give them a move and then shoot. I'm going to try and get in position to start shooting at these Forlorn Hope, because if they get into my lines, it's not going to be good. So we're going to go ahead and move our 4 up to these barrels. We are sitting at just over 6.5 inches here. So a 6.5 inch shot here is going to be a +1. So the capers are going to go ahead and shoot at the Forlorn Hope. The Forlorn Hope are mostly in the open. You've got 1 guy in the back that's towing the woods, so he could take the first hit if he does get hit. So the capers, they have a shoot skill of 6, +1 is 7. So we're looking for 7s here. Okay, and we rolled a 7 and a 9, and the rest didn't hit, so that's 2 hits. That's decent. All right. Take that. Trying to roll it, and this darn tree's in the way. We can take the top off that one too. But that's all right. We'll just leave it be. So we got 2 hits, and the Forlorn Hope, which have a really good shoot save of, it looks like, well, they have a shoot save of 7. So not too great, but not too terrible, I guess. So they're going to take their 2 hits. Actually, 1 guy is in the woods, so we'll give him his 7 first. And he rolled a 1, so that's not going to do it. And then the guy out in the open, which is going to be on a 9, is a 4. So we're going to take the guy in cover, and we'll take 1 more guy, making that 2 casualties there for the Brethren of the Coast. Which means that they have reached their first strike point and are now losing the game. 2 dice plus an extra for fatigue here, and they rolled a 5, 4, and a 10. And they have a really high resolve, or rather low resolve of 4, so they passed all of their resolve. All their fatigue tests were passed. And of course we have to give them 2 reload markers, as you do. I'm going to try and get my Zealadin out of the way so that they don't get shot to death, so I'm going to try and go with a spade there. Let's go ahead and see what our friends here are doing. Okay, and we've got a 2 actions trained. Alright, so that's going to be, actually, I'll get to go first, and then the Brethren of the Coast will get to go with 2 actions with a trained unit. I'm actually going to just activate my Zealadin to get the heck out of Dodge, because right now they're in the line of fire from those freebooters, and I don't much like it. So they're just going to move their 4 back behind here just to kind of keep bodies alive and keep a unit from getting destroyed. I also feel like in this game you've got a lot of great options when you keep your units from getting killed, keeping your units alive, because you get an extra card and that'll give you more options. they've got those capers right there, and I feel like a full volley is going to do a lot more for them than a half volley. So I'm going to go ahead and use their first action to reload as an executive decision here. And then we're going to go ahead and shoot those capers that are right out in front of us behind those barrels. We've got a +2 modifier, and the Filibustier have a shoot skill of 6, so that'll bring them up to 8s. So there's 6 of those guys. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And we're going to go ahead and shoot the capers over here. Needing 8s. Okay. Looks like we've got 1, 2, 3 hits. That's pretty solid. And I do believe that the Filibustiers have ball and shot. And they did roll a 10. So as long as I'm not more than 12 away, which it looks like, yep, I'm only just a little under 10 or over 10. So I'll actually have that ball and shot kick in, which is their special ability. And they'll get to roll another die, which equals another hit. Wow, that's pretty good. So that ball and shot really came in handy, and it got 4 hits on my capers over here. So I am hurting. So I've got a shoot save of 7 over here on my poor capers that got shot up by the Filibustiers. So I need 4 saves of 7 or better behind cover. So I actually did make 2 of them, because we've got a 7, we've got an 8, and then we've got a 1 and a 3. So I did take 2 casualties. So we'll go ahead and take the 2 guys from the back. And that brings me up, I believe, let's see, where are we at? So my strike points are at 7 models, and I'm at 6 now. So I'm almost to my first strike point as far as casualties. So I took 2 casualties. That means that I need to roll 3 fatigue dice, 1 for being hit and 2 for the casualties. Here we go. And their fatigue, on a fatigue test, it looks like the capers have a resolve of 5, which is pretty darn good. So we actually failed 1 out of the 3 because we rolled a 7, a 2, and a 5. So we've got our guys over here at 2 reload markers for the Filibustiers. Alright, for my Soldaten, which is the last card, I'm actually going to get to do that action on my own, just because of the fact that the Brethren of the Coast do not have any more units because I've destroyed all their sea dogs. So my last unit is the Soldaten, and they are trained, and they will get 3 actions on this 2 of clubs. So we've got the option here to do quite a bit with these guys. They were activated on a club, which doesn't really give them any extra abilities because they have expertly drilled, but that only activates on a spade or a heart, it looks like. We're going to actually activate our commander first. He's going to let these guys reload, which is nice. Trying to get our Soldaten, and trees are falling over. Trying to get our Soldaten into place. That's our first move, our first action. We're going to actually move again. Just move up right next to these capers here and try and move in here on the Brethren of the Coast. So we have a third action which we're going to go ahead and shoot, and we're going to try and attack this Forlorn Hope again, which gives us a good solid 8.5 inches away. The shoot skill of Soldaten is a 7, so I'll be hitting on 9s. They're not really that great at shooting, it seems, but that's alright. They're still solid. So hitting on 7s, or hitting on 9s rather, with a +2 modifier. And then I'd actually be hitting on 11s with my commander, so he can't shoot because he gets a +2 modifier. So he's not going to be shooting this time, but all of his Soldaten will be. Into the Forlorn Hope here. I just kind of want to get a better angle on this so that you can see where the action is happening here. Here we go. We're shooting. All right. And needing 9s, I only got 1 hit on a 10. Oh man, I think it might be time to utilize that second fortune point. So we're going to try again. I know that we're hoping for the best here, but we're going to see if we can do better. Okay, and it looks like just 1 hit again on a 9. So not really as much as I'd hoped, but I mean, we are looking for 9s and 10s here, so 20% chance to hit. So just 1 hit seems like it's probably about right. Okay, so that means the Forlorn Hope are going to need to take a test here. We'll put back our barrel here so that it can stand up again. And it does look like some of these guys are shooting over the barrels, so they're going to get some sort of cover here. The Forlorn Hope have a really good save here of a 7 against shooting, it looks like. Okay, not great, not terrible, but it's their resolve that's so great. So they need a 7 to save it, and they rolled a 1. Okay, so they will lose another guy here. So they did take a casualty. They have a resolve of 4, so they're not sweating it. And they rolled 2 6s. So not even a problem for the Forlorn Hope. They are not even bothered by this shooting. So they're going to go ahead and take 2 reload markers on the Soldaten. And we go into the next turn, turn 3. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and draw. We got 1, 2, 3, and 4 units for myself. Ooh, man, those are some bad cards. That's okay, though. I kind of like having more actions than I do going first. But they're getting close here, so they could be assaulting me in this next turn and doing some serious damage to me. I'm just going to keep this hand and see how it goes. It's not my best hand I've ever had, but, you know, I've only played this game really once before, so what do I know? I've only got 1 fortune point left anyway, so I don't really want to spend it on drawing a new hand. I'd rather use it for a reroll. We're going to go with that, and then we'll see what happens here as far as the Brethren of the Coast. Now, they're definitely going before I am, and they're going to get 2 actions. Unit with an enemy less than 12 inches away, so that's going to prioritize the Forlorn Hope. They have less strike points, and they played a 3 value, so they're going to do B, which is shoot within 20 inches. Yeah, so we're going to actually do what it says under the command points, and he's going to use that to reload this reload marker. So with the Forlorn Hope here, it looks like we've got a commander in there who lets them reload, because that's what he would do according to the Solitaire rules, and then it says shoot. So I would probably just do a shoot and then move action to kind of find some cover from the incoming fire coming from the Soldaten and Capers. So we've got 2 actions, might as well shoot and then move. Forlorn Hope have a shoot skill of 6, so it would be on 7s. And then 9 is what I need for the captain here with his breasted pistols. So 7s and 9s. Here we go into the Capers. Okay. We only got 1 hit here, which isn't great, but it's not terrible. We're back up to 2 reloads on them, and we're going to need to make a save on the Capers here. The Capers have a save of 7, not the best in the world, but oh, and they lose a guy, so we lose 1 Caper, and we get our first strike point here for the Dutch. Now we're going to need to make 2 rally tests here on the Capers. The Capers have a resolve of 5. Ooh, and they fail both of them. So they're actually going from 1 fatigue up to 3 fatigue, which means that they are going to become shaken, I believe. Yep, so they are now at 3 fatigue, which means that these guys are shaken and they are going to run for cover. So they immediately make a move back 4 inches towards cover. And they're going to be joining their Zealaden friends back here and hide from the enemy. Now, at first I thought that my Capers running away was going to be a really bad thing, which, you know, it's not great. And I'm now at my first strike point, which means we're tied again here between the 2 forces. But it does give my Soldaten an open area with cover to move up into. So I'm going to go ahead and use my 3 actions with my trained unit here to go ahead and get up into that terrain here. So first thing I'm going to do is actually give a rally action from my commander to these capers over here to try and help them out. They're shaken, so they've got 3. And I rolled an 8, an 8, and a 10, which will get rid of all 3 of those fatigue from the commander. That's really awesome. Okay, that was definitely the right move there. Okay, next thing I can do with 3 actions is I can actually move for 1 action. Now, I'm quickly realizing with 2 reload markers, this might not be the best decision because I'm probably only going to get a half fire shot off. Oop. I'm only going to get a half fire shot off here with these Soldaten. So only 4 shots, so we're going to reload once, and then we're just going to half fire into the Forlorn Hope. So it's only going to be 4 shots. However, my Soldaten with a shoot skill of 6. Oh, they have a shoot skill of 6. I thought it was 7 there for a second. I think that's their save. So I may have cheated myself earlier, but that's okay. All right, we're still learning, and I'm going to get a lot of things wrong here. I'm just over 6, so that's going to be a +1, so I'm going to be hitting on 7s. Cheating myself constantly. People are probably pulling their hair out watching this, going, hey, he's screwing a lot of stuff up. That's okay. So I got an 8 and a 9. That's 2 hits. The 5 and the 4 clearly don't hit. That's going to be 2 hits on the Forlorn Hope. And the Forlorn Hope have a shoot save of 7. And they make them both, a 7 and an 8. That's pretty awesome. Oh, but they are out in the open to me now. I keep forgetting about that. They only get saves on 9s, don't they? So that's actually going to be failures. Again, like in most games when I don't know the rules, I usually start by cheating myself before I cheat my opponent. So there's 2 casualties for the Forlorn Hope, being that they're in the open and are no longer getting cover from these barrels since I'm right up against them. So we're going to go ahead, and I'm sorry, the female sailor is unfortunately going to be a casualty now. She is one of my favorite minis from the range. I love it. It's pretty cool. I didn't paint them as good as other people might, but hey, my favorite mini I ever painted is the one that's done. So there you go. All right, and we're going to go ahead and roll their resolve now. They have a resolve of 4, so it shouldn't be too bad. Oh, all right, so they do take 1 fatigue, but they do have 2 members left in that unit. So they should be okay. I do feel like I need to get my militia in this fight. But I need more than 1 action to do so. So I'm going to go ahead and go with a club again and see what happens as far as these Brethren of the Coast. I'm hoping I'm getting things right with these Solitaire rules, and it seems like I'm getting them fairly right. But if I've made some mistakes along the way, I apologize, and hopefully in the comments you can leave me some pointers for future games. If you've tried these Solitaire rules out, let me know what your best practices are with these new rules. Alright, so we're going to go ahead with another card here for the Brethren of the Coast, and they have a 2 of Hearts. That's going to give their trained a 2 action activation. Alright, being that the Forlorn Hope have already activated this turn and then taken some casualties from the Soldaten, the next closest unit is kind of a toss-up, whether it's the Filibustier or the Freebooters. But I think it's probably the Filibustier. So we're going to actually activate them next. We're actually tied still on strike points at 1-1. So that's going to give them a B column, which is hold. They're going to shoot if within less than 20 inches. They are within less than 20 inches, but they do have 2 reload markers, so there's no way that they're going to be able to do that. Then there's charge, which they can't do because they're not in range, and then there's reload. which seems like the thing to do. So they're going to use their 2 activations to just reload their Buccaneer guns. With this low activation club I've got here, it's about the only way that you can really get an inexperienced unit more than 1 action, it seems like. So we're going to go ahead and use those 2 actions on our militia here. And we're going to actually just kind of reload them and keep moving. So we're going to actually kind of do a little bit of both. We're going to use 1 activation to reload once. And then we're going to actually move with the other activation. That way, hopefully next turn we can get a multiple activation and do something else worthwhile. So for the Brethren of the Coast, we've got a diamond, which will have them go second. All right, for the Zealoden, I actually rolled it off camera, but because I didn't hit record, but I did. I rolled a 4 there. So the freebooters over here for the Brethren of the Coast, their closest real threat are these Soldaten over here. We're tied on strike points, and that's going to mean I've got to hold column B, and they're within 20, I believe, so that's going to be a shoot action. They get 2 actions with this ability. They do have a unit that's slightly in the way with that Forlorn Hope, but it looks like they should be able to get a line of sight around them enough to where I'm going to just let them shoot. It's not a problem. So, because the guys on this side can shoot that side of the unit, the guys on this side can shoot the other side of the unit. Not a huge problem. So we're going to actually use a reload to get rid of that last reload marker. And then for their second action, they're going to shoot, because that's what they want to do according to the rules here. So we're just slightly over 9 inches. Hitting on a 6 because they have a shoot skill of 6 and they're at a +2, so 8s. And obviously the Soldaten over here, it looks like they are definitely going to be behind cover. So here we go, needing 8s. And that was a pretty darn good roll. We got a 10, that was a 10, and then an 8 and a 9 there, so that's 3 hits. 3 hits on the Soldaten. Okay, so the Soldaten themselves, they have a save on shooting of 7. So let's see if they can absorb this firepower on 7s. And man, they sure did. They rolled a 7, a 7, and a 10. So no casualties, but they still have to take a fatigue test for getting hit. And they rolled a 4, which I believe is not good enough. Yeah, the Soldaten only have a resolve of 5, so that's going to go ahead and give them a fatigue, which is not great. But, you know, it could have gone a lot worse. I'd rather take 1 fatigue on the Soldaten than take 3 casualties, which was potentially the case there. Okay, this last activation, it looks like the English aren't going to get one because they lost a unit. But I've still got my Capers over here, which they get 3 actions. Alright, being that my Capers over here are going to get 3 actions, but they're going to go ahead and just move. And we're going to just move right out a little bit over here and get behind our Soldaten. So that way we can make another move in the next turn to try and move out and take a shot. So there we go. They've moved, and that's going to be the end of turn 3. We're on to turn 4 already, or round 4, I should say. So round 4 coming up. All right, round 4 with 1 strike point each still, and we're almost up to 2 strike points for the Brethren of the Coast. I'm holding my own here, but I still feel like with 2 full units ready to go that we might not be doing so hot here for the Dutch unless we can take down that commander. Now I do feel like in these rules that there should be when a unit gets down to 1 guy, the commander should go and join another unit, and that usually requires a fortune point. I'm just going to go ahead with these rules right now the way they are and just kind of allow it. I'm going to use an imaginary fortune point to get him over there. Okay, so here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4 for my 4 units. And yeah, pretty good cards actually. Not terrible. I mean, that's the lowest spade, but it's still a spade. And I believe that this turn I'm going to try and go slow and get more activations. So we'll start with that and see what happens. And then as far as the Brethren of the Coast, they're going to go first. And they've got a trained unit. So there you go. 2 activations. I'm going to actually activate the Forlorn Hope here. And I'm going to stray a little bit from the solo rules, which it does say in the packet, now that I'm reading a little more, that you should use common sense and try and help out the AI as much as possible. So I'm going to use that imaginary fortune point, but first I'm going to use my command point to try and rally this unit. So that way, as soon as he leaves the unit, he is not in trouble. So we are going to go with the Forlorn Hope's Resolve of 4, and there's the command point, and they made it on a 4. So that fatigue goes away for this guy. And then he's going to actually use that imaginary command point to reattach himself right over here within 4 inches. It's in the rule book. I'm trying to remember what it's called. It's like save your commander's butt. I don't remember what the rule's called, but it's something along those lines. And so he's going to go over there with the freebooters instead. And that'll make things a little better for the Brethren of the Coast, that their commander doesn't get wiped this turn. Now, as for the rest of the Forlorn Hope unit, they're still tied, and the card value was a 1. So it's going to be another hold where it's going to be shoot or charge. He's got those explosives. Actually, let's look up the explosives. Let's see if the explosives would be fun to use. Because I could just run up and throw explosives at those Soldaten. Alright, we figured out after looking at the book what explosives means, and it means that you can pick one of the 3 different types of explosives, being that they might be grenados, fire pots, or stink pots. So we're going to go ahead and go with grenados because those sound really fun, and it sounds like something that they would want to do if you were the last guy left trying to do something for your Brethren of the Coast, going into battle, running in. If your whole unit got shot to bits, you're the last brave man, you're going to run in there and throw the grenado, right? So he's going to run up 4. He's within the 5 inches that are needed for the grenados. They never need a reload or anything. So in addition to his regular Buccaneer gun, he would have these grenados. So he's within 5 inches. They ignore cover. And it's 3 shots. And they hit on 7s, and any rolls of a 10 gets an additional hit. So these are basically, he's throwing a grenade right in the middle of the Soldaten over here. And let's get close up here. And it's going to be bad news bears here for these Soldaten. So let's see what happens. All right, we got a 9, 1, and a 5. Gosh darn it, I was hoping something cooler would have happened. That's all right though. I was hoping for like 2 10s. You know, I'm hoping my own Dutch are gonna die here, but that's okay. So we're gonna try. I know we rolled a 10. Oh man. We do get an out of cover save. It says in the book. So I believe. Let's see. Grenados. Oh wait, no. A unit hit by grenados cannot take any saves against these hits. So guess what? Even though I rolled a 10 there, it wasn't worth a darn. So one of these guys gets blown to smithereens. So that means I've got a test of 2, and a 4 and a 2 on a 5 resolve is going to mean 2 more fatigue. Which means that these guys are up to 3 fatigue. Which is pretty hilarious, because that means that they are shaken and they're going to run. Looks like the lone Brethren of the Coast just ran up, threw a grenade into some Soldaten, and made them all run away. And I mean, that's just the brilliant part of this game, right? Because you would think that if something like this happened, where a grenade gets thrown at you, that it would cause that much fatigue, and they'd probably run away, especially if one of their guys got blown up right next to them. So that one lone Brethren of the Coast there is creating havoc. Okay, in response to that, I think that my capers are actually going to activate. They're trained, so they're going to get 3 actions. And I think that they're just going to move on up. I think this is well within 4 inches. So they're going to move up here within 4 inches of this poor soul right here out in the open. And they're just going to unload their muskets into them. They've got 3 Firelock muskets. We're well within 4, so it's not going to be any kind of a bonus or any penalty to our shooting. We have a shoot skill of 6. So we need 6s to hit this poor grenadier that went out and did the brave thing here. Okay, so we only rolled a 3, 3, and a 7 actually. So only 1 hit. I'm going to go ahead and take that though, because might as well. All right, so we've got the 1 last save. We need a 9. See if he lives. And he rolls a 9. Can you believe it? Yeah! All right, so the Brethren of the Coast, Forlorn Hope lives on. Back up to 2 reloads here for the capers. And the Forlorn Hope is going to need to take a fatigue. And he rolled a 4, which is exactly what he needed to stick around. Which actually, with only 1 fatigue, he'd just be fatigued. He needs 2 fatigue in order to run, so I'm going to try and go first this time. And we're going to use a diamond. Here is the Brethren of the Coast. Oh, and they got a heart. I don't know why I keep saying diamonds when I'm using hearts, but apparently I keep doing it. All right, so I played a heart. And actually, the Brethren of the Coast, they got an 8 and I've got a 2 here, so they're going to get to go first. They've got 2 activations. So these freebooters over here, it looks like with their card that they played, that's an 8. We're tied, so they're going to go to B, which is a shoot action. They've only got 2 actions, so they can't shoot. So their next is going to be a charge or reload. So they can't charge, so they're just going to use their 2 actions to reload. Actually, their commander is going to give 1 action to reload. They're going to reload with their first action, and then they're going to shoot. So use that commander to their best ability. And those capers are right across the way there. There's only 3 of them left. Making bad choices here, so we're at just over 9 inches. At 9 inches, that's going to be a +2. They are a shoot skill of 6. They are going to get ball and shot, so they're going to be at 8s. So we're at 8 dice again. And then I can actually roll my commander, who needs a 10 on the yellow die. Okay, and here we go. Okay, we actually only got 2 hits, but still, that's not bad. And with only 3 capers left, this might do the trick. So 2 hits on the capers in cover. The capers, once again, they have a 7 shoot save in cover. So we made 1 and we failed 1. So we lose a caper. And then we've got to actually start taking a fatigue test here. So 1 for getting hit and 1 for taking a casualty. They got a 3 and a 6. And the capers have a resolve of 5, so they do take 1 fatigue. And we'll go ahead and give these guys 2 reload markers again, just to signify that they have shot. Okay, so the cowardly Dutch that ran away from the explosives are now fatigued. I'm going to actually use my commander to use his first command point, to have his unit rally. And it says that with inspiring, that any failed rally test results can be re-rolled in their command range. So that means that I don't have to re-roll everything, it's just the failed ones, it seems like. So that's good to know. The Soldaten have a resolve of 5, so we're going to roll 3 and hope for 5s. And we actually failed 2 with a 1 and a 3. The 6 made it, but we've got that inspiring, which is great because we got a 6 and an 8 on the re-roll. So that means that all 3 of those fatigue are going to go away on that command point. The commander is getting his Soldaten back in the fight. They realize that the dust has cleared from the explosion and it's time to get back in there. I think that what we're going to do is just move on up this way, over and around this corner. And actually my second command point, I forgot to do it. I was going to actually give a rally action to the Capers real quick to try and get them back. The Capers are a resolve of 5 as well, and they rolled a 4, but he is very inspiring, so we'll try that again. And he rolled a 2, so never mind. The Capers don't use that command point to their best ability. Anyway, I've got the Soldaten back up here, and let's get a better look at what they can see. We could just shoot that poor soul with the Granados, which would probably be the smart move. We're just to the right of our Capers, so we're not going to be hitting them. However, he is partially behind cover for some of this because of those barrels. So let's just unload on him, try and get rid of him because, my goodness, we've got to do something. Oh wait, actually, the first action was to move. Second action is going to be to shoot still, but we only get a half shot because we do still have 1 reload marker. Soldaten have a shoot value of 6. I believe we're still right within that 4-inch. Yep. So we're going to be able to shoot at a plus nothing, and that gives us 6s that we're looking for. Okay, so that was a pretty good shot. We got a 3 hits and 1 miss with that 3. We'll go ahead and give this guy a save, even though it's going to be a 7, because their shoot save for the Forlorn Hope is a 7. And we'll see if he can make it. And he rolled a 9, an 8, and a 9. So my generosity has bit me once again, and he's sticking around. He does need to take a fatigue test, which he makes, and we're back up to 2 here. He's going to be slinging explosives at me next turn again. I know it. All right. Okay, for my final card, I'm just going to go ahead and play a 1 of diamonds. And it looks like, okay, so they're going to go first with their spade. Okay, so the filibustiers here in the woods, they've got 1 action, and they're fully reloaded here, so that's going to be good for them. All right, so they're going to probably be shooting at these Soldaten, because the Soldaten, in relation to where they're at, are right out in the open. And they're shooting right out of the woods. So we've got a 9-inch shot here, and that's going to be a +2, I believe. Yep, a +2. They are going to be in ball and shot range again, too, so that's really good for them. Fully reloaded, ready to go right into the Soldaten here. So let's see what they can do. What was it, 6, 7, 8s? I needed 8s. Okay. It looks like we've got 2 hits there. And I mean, I didn't even consult the chart, but that seems like what they would do. We're tied. We go to card value. It's column B. Shoot within 20. Yep, that's what they would have done. So made sure I did that right. They hit twice. We're right out in the open, so we're only going to get saves of 9. And I rolled 2 9s. Can you believe it? Oh my gosh. These Firelock game dice are really good. And they make their resolve, their fatigue test, because their resolve is of a 5. The filibustiers have fired, and they get their 2 reload tokens. Alright, so for my militia, we're just making our way over here. We get 2 actions, and this turn, rather than kind of waste it by firing on those freebooters right with 1 reload token, I'm going to save it and just reload and move. So we're going to get rid of that reload token for the first action, and then we're going to actually move so that way we can get in a line kind of right across here, base to base, so we can use our drilled actions for next turn to fire from behind cover of this boat into the freebooters. And that is kind of the plan there. So I'm making sure we're all in base to base, and that's going to help with their drilled. So for my final turn, I've got 1 action on my Zealodin, and they're just going to attempt to rally once again, sitting back here. They have a resolve of 5, they have 1 fatigue, and they rolled a 10. So that fatigue is going away, and they have rallied. So we're on to turn 5, which is the second and last turn of the game. Well, I drew another event, so we're going to have to figure that one out. And then, yeah, We've got some decent cards there for going first. I do like the having more actions than going first, but I don't know. Against a live opponent, it might change things. Right now, I feel like, although right now it might be good because I've got that Grenadier right in front of us. So, all right, we're going to go ahead and consult the chart. Here we go. The roll is a 6, which is a weather change and wind change again. We're going to roll the weather table because the wind table doesn't really matter right now, and it's a 1. Is a, let's see, -1 on the weather effects chart. Okay, all that means is that the blinding sun, if we're shooting more than 20 inches, it's going to be a -1. I don't think that's going to come into play, especially because all the units on this table are very close to each other at this point. So let's go ahead and get back to the game here. Okay, drawing another card. I got a diamond. That's pretty good. Less initiative, more actions here. So the diamond. And looks like my opponent has picked a heart. So they're going to get to go first, and they get 2 actions. Alright, it's the start of turn 5, and it sure does look like we're in trouble here because the Brethren of the Coast has ended up with a heart. And that means that they're going to get 2 actions, and they're going to get to go before me. The closest guy to me is this Forlorn Hope Grenadier here, and he has got a nice juicy target of either the Capers or the Soldaten. The Soldaten have more men in the unit, and they're well within 5, so I feel like in this case I'm just going to make a educated decision here. It does say shoot if you're within less than 20. And the card value is 9, so that's going to be column B. So shoot. Shooting includes throwing grenades, I'm pretty sure. So let's go ahead and do this. He's going to get 3. These guys are going to get no save against this. And they hit on 7s, and 10s create more explosions. So here we go. He got 2 hits, a 7 and an 8. So 2 this time. And that explosion absolutely rocks the Soldaten with 2 more casualties. The first was to throw that. We hit twice, which means that we're going to have 3 fatigue tests on the Soldaten. This Grenadier definitely did his job. Alright, so they have a resolve of 5, so a 5, 7, and a 10 will do it. They are fine. Being that he's already shot, he's got a second action, which he's in charge range, so he might as well just charge, right? Can you shoot and then charge? I don't know. Maybe you can't, but guess what? We're going to do it anyway. Seems thematic. He'd throw a grenade and then charge right into these guys. And he'd probably jump up on that box, because that's what he would do. I'm saying so. So here we go. The Brethren of the Coast is going to make an attack here in close combat on these poor Capers who are already at 1 fatigue. So the Forlorn Hope have a fight skill of 6. Here we go with that fight skill of 6. And we roll and we get a 1, which is not going to be enough. That's okay though, they're locked in combat now and he can't be shot at. This guy is definitely the MVP for the Brethren of the Coast. But I think it's more important that I do something with my Soldaten right now, just because, well, they're kind of in trouble. Because you've got some filibustiers over here, filibustier, I keep saying it wrong, sorry about that. And then we've still got the commander and his freebooters over here, still at full strength. They all need to reload, but it could get pretty hairy pretty quick for these Soldaten unless they make an action now. We've got 2 actions trained, but we're going to actually use our command point from our commander, first command point, to reload. His second command point is going to be given to these Capers, which I believe that he can give them a fight action. The 2 Capers are going to swing, and if we get any 10s, we get an extra shot at a wound. We got a 2 and a 4, which does not even hit their fight skill, because their fight skill on those Capers is just a 6. So they swung and missed. We're going to actually have them shoot in the open right across here at these freebooters. Over 10, just under 11, so just about 11 inches away. We consult the chart, which I believe that's going to be a +2. Yep, it's still a +2. So we got a +2 to our shoot. Our shoot is a 6. So we're looking at 8s, which means that actually our commander can roll his pistol on a 10. We need 8s and 10s here on the freebooters. Okay, and it looks like we've got 1 8. Oh, that we moved over to a 2. Everything else missed. So the freebooters themselves, they have a save from shooting on a 7, but they're right out in the open, so they're going to be on a 9. And we rolled a 6, so they actually take their first casualty. After that first casualty, they'll need to take 2 fatigue tests. Resolve of... They have a resolve of 5. They scored a 3 and a 1, which isn't going to be very good, because that means they're at 2 fatigue, which means they get -1 action on their turn. They'll regain their 2 reload markers, and that'll complete their turn. On my next card, I just want to be able to shoot, but I want to be able to shoot with more than 1 action. Unfortunately, with the cards that I have, with my inexperienced guys, all I'm going to get is 1 action anyway. So we might as well take that shoot action and try and do something good with it. So I'm going to try and go first and use my 10 of spades, because I want to be able to shoot with all of my militia as quickly as I can at the enemy here. Alright, so it looks like they got a 7 of clubs, which means that they're going to get 3 actions, which is pretty darn good. For this action, I have 1 inexperienced action on my spade of a 10, so I'm going to go ahead and use that to shoot my militia. My militia is going to go ahead and unload on the freebooters across the way that are out in the open. We're just under 12, so about 11 and a half. So that's going to be a +2, I believe. My military, or the militia, have a shoot skill of 7, so that means I'm going to need 9s. And we're going to try and shoot these freebooters. Okay, not a terrible roll at all, actually. We ended up with 1, 2 9s, and a 10 in this roll. So that's 3 hits. That's pretty darn good when you're rolling on 9s and 10s. Alright, so now our freebooters back here are going to need to take their test to see if they can stay alive and not take any more fatigue, because they're already at 2. So this is not good for them. Shoot save of 7. But actually they're out in the open, so that doesn't even matter. They're going to be saving on 9s. Okay, they got a 4, a 4, and a 7, which means 3 more freebooters are going to lose their lives now. So they took 3 casualties, which means that they're rolling 4 dice here. This could be a very decisive moment. Now, I believe that their commander is inspiring. No, he's not. Oh, the 0-point commander is not inspiring, so they won't be able to reload, or they won't be able to re-roll this. So they actually, let's see, they have a resolve of 5, so they actually only fail 1. They got a 9, 5, 6, and a 4, which brings them up to 3 fatigue, which actually will make them shaken. Alright, the poor freebooters, who are now at 3 fatigue, are going to start running away. So at first I thought it was going to be the freebooters who are next, but it's actually the filibustiers. They are not fatigued in any way, and they're trained, and they're going to get 3 actions from the club card. So that's going to go from 2 reloads, and then they're going to want to shoot, because that's what it says to do. And we're just going to have them unload on the Soldaten over here. So might as well. So a +2, the filibustiers, they're going to get their ball and shot, and they're shooting on a 6 up to an 8. Ooh, only 1 hit out of that whole volley. I thought they'd get a little more. The dice have turned. That's okay. 1 hit, and the Dutch out in the open on a 9. Ooh, a 2 won't do it. They still take a casualty. We'll actually need 2 more casualties from the Dutch to get them to 2 strike points. So it's 1 to 2 right now. Not too bad. They're going to have to take 2 fatigue tests though here. So that's a 6 and a 10. And the Soldaten actually still have that resolve of 5, which is really good. So they don't take any fatigue even after losing all those guys. They're doing really well. I'm going to actually play a 9 and we'll see what they get. The 9 of spades against the 3 of diamonds. Yeah, so really all I've got left now is just my capers and Zealadin. My capers are fatigued and they need to reload their muskets, but they're in combat and they're brawlers. So we're going to try again here and give them a fight action to just go ahead and try and finish off this last forlorn hope once again. Their fight skill is on a 6, so we're in need of 6s. And we got 1 6, a 6 and a 3. Their fight save is a 6, so that's actually pretty darn good. And they rolled a 1. So finally, it looks like this final forlorn hope with the grenade finally falls. We've got a 3 of diamonds, which will give these guys 2 activations usually. They're down to 1 activation just because of the fact that they have 3 fatigue, but I do have a commander there, and he can use his command point to try and get rid of those 3 fatigue. I can roll 3 dice, see if we can knock that fatigue down, and see if we can get our actions back. So the freebooters have a resolve of 5, 3 dice, and we got a 5, 8, and a 9, which knocks out all of 3 of the fatigue. Because they're in column C now. I'm looking at it saying op 4, and that means me in this case, the opponent of the opposing force. So I have more strike points, and they're going to go to column C, which means they first rally, which they've already done with the command point. Or actually, no, let's see. They first shoot, which they can't do because they can't reload. Then they do a retreat move. So they're already in cover, so I don't think they'd want to do that. Repair, which they can't do. Rally. Reload. Let's just reload with them. So we've got 2 reloads. We'll just use the 2 reloads as actions to reload those guys. So they're back to being able to fire, and they've already used their command point, and they're not in range of anybody else. So that's it. With my final card, the Zealadin are actually going to just kind of start moving out to go help out. There's only 2 of them left, but there's only 2 capers left, and they're being brave, so why can't these guys, right? So they're going to move on out, and then they get 2 actions. So their second action is just going to be to actually move up behind these guys and take cover, just in case anybody gets close enough to me. Then I can maybe blunderbuss them to the face. Alright, it's definitely turn 6, the final turn of the game. And the Brethren of the Coast are behind by 1 strike point. Not by much though. A few more kills and it looks like we'll be at 2 strike points for the Dutch as well. So I just need to hold on and hope that I can do all I can to keep this from a draw. Alright, drawing cards for turn number 6, the final turn. Alright, solid stuff, solid activations. Not exactly the highest cards, but I actually kind of like having these diamonds and hearts. They kind of give you a mix of more actions, and yeah, even though I might take some shots to the face, we'll see. Having these extra actions I actually feel like is more beneficial than going first in a lot of cases. So alright, here we go. So I'm putting down my first card, and it looks like the hearts. 6 of hearts for the enemy, for the opposing force. So Brethren of the Coast is going to get to go first, and then the Dutch will get to go second. The Brethren of the Coast will get 2 actions because both of their units are trained. Once again, it looks like these filibustiers are the closest to enemy units, so they're going to get to shoot first. It looks like I'm just moving this tree out of the way here. They are going to get to fire, but only a half shot on the last turn because they're at 2 reload markers from firing in the previous turn. So rather than just reload twice and not get a shot, I'm going to go ahead and just reload once and then do a half shot for 3 shots into the Soldaten. That way it kind of gives them a fighting chance to get that second strike point and tie things up. Okay, so 3 shots with a partial fire. I kept calling it a half shot, but it's actually a partial fire. You know what I'm talking about. So they use one action to reload, and then we're going to go ahead and shoot again. I believe we're just over 9 inches, so that's just going to be a +2. So their shoot skill 6, so we're going to 8s, and any 10s will be a ball and shot reroll for an extra shot. So we got 1 hit out of 3. And that's going to be saving on a 9 for the Soldaten, just because, well, they're out in the open. And they don't get it, so that's going to off another one of the Soldaten. So the Soldaten are now, let's see, they're going to have to take 2 fatigue tests on 5s. So let's see if they can stay in this fight. Oh, they did get 1 fatigue because they got an 8 and a 3 there. For my activation, I'm going to go ahead and activate the militia over here behind the boat. They're going to take some shots over there at the freebooters that are now in cover. They're under 12. They're at about 11.5 inches to those freebooters, which will give them a +2. So they'll need 9s to hit on 4 dice for a partial fire. And they rolled 1 9, which will be a hit. The freebooters are in cover, so they're going to get a shoot save of a 7. Here's the freebooters roll on a 7, and they rolled a 2. The 2 is not going to save them, so they take another casualty. We're going to go ahead and do a fatigue test on the freebooters, and they actually pass 1, fail 1, a 4 and a 9. So they will take 1 fatigue, but that's not going to shake them. They're going to stay in this fight and keep going. And this can probably be the final card of the game unless another casualty is made. So I actually just went with a 12 of hearts here to try and get a couple actions. And the 12 of spades gives 1 action to a trained unit. Over here we've got a fully loaded freebooter unit, and they are ready and can shoot those capers across the way. So we're going to go ahead and have them do that. The capers will be getting cover here, but we've got a unit that's got 1 action, and that action is going to be to shoot. If they can get a casualty, they'll have the game tied and we'll play it out. If they don't get a casualty, we'll call the game, because at that point, no more actions for the Brethren of the Coast means that they can't do any more damage. Just under 10, or just over 10, so that's still going to be a +2. Their shoot skill is 6, that's going to mean it's 8s. And they've got 3 shots, and then 1 from their commander. So we're looking for 8s and 10s on the commander die, which is the yellow die here. Okay, and there are no hits there. So that's actually going to end the game for us. And it looks like a victory for the Dutch, being that now we have 1 more strike point than the enemy. And even though it was a close game, the Dutch were able to come out on top and rout the Brethren of the Coast. I feel like the filibustiers were an excellent unit for the Brotherhood of the Coast. They did their job, and as well as the Forlorn Hope, really whittling down these Soldaten. If they hadn't made all of those fatigue tests and passed them, they'd be running away, and the commander was the only reason they stayed in the fight. Really, if you look at the numbers on this game, other than just keeping my inexperienced guys back just so that they wouldn't get shot at by the AI, I mean, I feel like that's kind of the way to do it, even if you're playing an opponent, because they'll usually shoot what's closest to you anyway. So it's not like they're playing it wrong by shooting other things. But keeping the inexperienced guys back is usually a good call because it keeps them alive. So we did lose quite a few units over here. And yeah, our militia stayed strong and did the work that was needed to get the second strike point on these freebooters. So in the end, successful first solo solitaire mission for Blood and Plunder. Let me know what you thought in the comments, and please subscribe if you haven't already, because I'm going to probably do a few more of these, and hopefully they've been helpful. Also, please let me know if I got any of the rules wrong. I'm sure there were probably 1 or 2, or maybe even more, that I messed up here. This is only my second game, and there's plenty that I need to learn here. But so far so good, and a lot of fun so far. So thank you for watching.